On this installment today, we're going to talk about the newest and final trailer for the new Nick Cage vampire film, Renfield. Well, it's absolutely amazing. Is Peacemaker Season 2 actually a lock? Maybe yes, maybe no. How badly has Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's image suffered as a result of what's been going on with both Black Adam and, of course, with Shazam? Apple is showing that they're smarter than Netflix, Disney Plus, and all of them, committing $1 billion a year to full theatrical releases. Star Wars' next movie has got the Eastern Promises and Peaky Blinders writer on board. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. And guys, here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to break it into two parts. First part of the show, we talk about some predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your comments and questions that you guys have sent in, and you can send in comments and questions anytime, 24/7, at our tip link right there, www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. You'll see your question answer on the show if we deem it appropriate for our show. And if not here, maybe we address it on an open mic. All right, guys, with all that down, let's get things rolling here, shall we? And I gotta start off with this. This is kind of painful. So last night, I did our Mandalorian open spoiler discussion, talking about the latest episode 4, Mandalorian. And of course, we're going to talk about the Mandalorian a little bit, kind of open spoilery. The show was on TV a couple nights ago, so you've been warned. But, you know, a lot of people decided to try to make me feel miserable. Because of certain something. Now, if you guys will recall, a few weeks ago, I got on this show and I made a bit of a prediction. And this was that prediction. Hate myself for bringing this up.
It's so good, but bad.
Who rescued Grogu from the Purge in the Jedi Temple? Is Jar Jar Binks. It actually, narratively, would make sense. Remember, Jar Jar, what was he doing at the time of the Purge? He was an acting senator. The idea that Jar Jar ends up just being Johnny on the spot and sees what's going on in the temple and sees this Grogu creature and it's the one that gets Grogu out. Listen, I'm telling you what, I'm as big of a Jar Jar hater as anybody else in the world, but narratively speaking, this fits. Okay, all right, so of course, then the episode of The Mandalorian comes out, and I was thrilled. And I think a lot of people were damn thrilled to see Ahmed Best playing Jedi Master Beck as the one who gets Grogu out of the temple. And so I had a bunch of our viewers write to me and say, hey, John, you were sort of right about your prediction. Of course, Ahmed Best was, of course, the actor who also did the motion capture and voice work for the character Jar Jar Binks. Now, I really don't like the Jar Jar Binks character, but that was never Ahmed Best's fault. And he should never have caught in the grief that he caught back in the day. So it was great to see him come back. But it may not be over there, because I may not have been almost right about Jar Jar saving Grogu because it was Ahmed Best. But as a bunch of people in our open spoiler discussion last night pointed out, when he gets Grogu out of the temple, they didn't just get away. That's not the end of it. They end up going to some kind of a landing pad where there are a bunch of soldiers waiting for him to help him, and what is clearly a Naboo ship. So there's a Naboo ship there with a bunch of Naboo soldiers. So yes, Beck gets Grogu to that ship and then they get away, but who are we going to find out is ultimately responsible for this? My living nightmare come to manifestation. Here's what's probably going to happen. Now, there are a couple of possibilities here. Number one, that it was former Queen Padme who had the ship waiting there to help get some Jedi, maybe one or two, maybe a couple of Jedi to escape. So that's a possibility. we may find out it was Amidala. Another possibility number 2, is remember, there is a new queen. At this point, there is a new queen. The girl who succeeded Amidala, who we did meet in the movies. So maybe she is the one who had that ship there, waiting to help them out. Unlikely, but possible. Damn it, the most likely scenario is that we're going to get into the next episode of Mandalorian. The Naboo ship is going to land. Beck and a little baby Yoda are going to get out, and there's going to be facing off in the distance a cloaked figure with his back to the camera. And Beck will come out and say, "You got us out just in time." And the figure will turn around and goes, "Mister, so glad you were safe." It's going to be Jar Jar. Jar Jar fucking Binks. It's going to, and you're going to have Jedi Master Beck facing himself as Jar Jar Binks. And yeah, this is my nightmare. But I mean, look, I hate to say it, but I actually think that's what they're going to do. Remember, as much as I love the Mandalorian show, one of the big, nitpicks I've had with the show from season 1 is that they really rely on member berries in this. It's like, that's why they go back to Tatooine 18 times an episode. That's why we're constantly having to visit locations that really have nothing to do with the show or the story. But hey, look, everybody, remember that? They do that a lot. Since they are so obsessed with these, cameo, Easter egg, whatever things, I'm just telling you, again, it narrative makes sense. It's going to be Jar Jar. It's going to be Jar Jar.
You need better nightmares.
Baby Yoda's so cute, sir. God damn it.
I guess we'll.
It's probably what's happening.
What if that does happen? Does that?
It is going to happen. You think I'm kidding? It is what's going to happen.
But I don't care if it happens or not. But I just care about what happens to you after it happens.
I don't know. I'm going to collapse. Have some kind of aneurysm.
No, I don't wish any physical.
Yeah, I mean, he still wants to keep his streaming services.
I just want to know emotionally what happens, because that's fine.
I'm going to weep.
It could destroy you.
Ray, I'm going to weep. Okay, I'm going to cry like a baby. Is that what you want to hear? I'm going to cry like a baby. I'm going to be so...
I need to get a Jar Jar mask before that show happens, so I can sit right next to you. And every time you turn around, I'm just gonna be like,
"Let's go, baby! Let's go, baby!
I'm back, bitch."
Or a little like baseball pennant, but they just says Jar Jar on it that you'll be waving. Man, it's gonna be so weird because I'm so happy Ahmed Best is back, and yet I'll be so sad if they actually go Jar Jar. But I'm telling you. Who's Senator of Naboo at the time? Who's the representing Senator of Naboo at the time? It's Jar Jar freaking Binks.
Let's take this seriously, though. Like besides that, who could possibly be another person that you would want to be the person that's
it's limited, right? Because it was a Naboo ship. So the only other person who it could really technically be connected to is maybe Palpatine. But I mean, Palpatine is Chancellor by this point, but he is from Naboo. He was the senator from Naboo. So you're other than Jar Jar, your 3 other options are Padme, which is the most likely, the current queen, or Palpatine. I mean, Bail Organa, it could be Bail Organa, because remember, Bail Organa pulls the same sort of thing. He gets Yoda out of there.
It might be him.
But I don't know why he would have a Naboo ship and not, I don't know why he would have that.
Mm-hmm.
So
why do I have a moon behind me? It's so people like to buy things.
I guess maybe. Anyway, guys, the question is for you: is it going to be Jar Jar? Not this time, Jar Jar. Is it going to be Jar Jar? I mean,
what's that?
That's Jar Jar's buddy, the other Gungan. Not this time, Jar Jar. Using big doo-doo this time.
I forgot about that guy. They should forget about him. Too.
The real hero of the Star Wars trilogy. Anyway, guys, whatever you think, jump on down to the comment section below and leave us your thoughts. All right, guys. with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? On April, I believe, 14th, and Taylor, you can fact check me on that, the new Nicolas Cage movie Renfield comes out with Nicholas Hoult starring as the title character Renfield, and Nicolas Cage plays Dracula. Now, look, I will admit, the first time I heard the concept for this thing, I'm like, really? Nicolas Cage is Dracula, huh? Okay, sure. I love Nicholas Hoult. He's a great actor. Nick Cage is a great actor. And then when I saw the first trailer for it, I just instantly was in love with it. And I'm like, sign me up. Well, the new trailer for Renfield has dropped, and what they are calling the final trailer has now dropped online, and it's even better than the first trailer. I mean, that first trailer got me completely on board. I did not know how I was going to respond as a fan, as a movie watcher, to seeing Nick Cage doing, I'm Dracula. Like, I didn't know how I would respond, but I responded very well. And then in this trailer, they give us even more of him. And you know what I didn't realize? The voice on the Hedgehog, Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz, that's right. Ben Schwartz, I didn't realize Ben Schwartz was in this movie.
Me either.
I don't know how I forgot that, but Ben Schwartz, and I love Ben Schwartz. So he'll always be John Ralphio to me. I don't care he can win 3 Academy Awards doing different movies. Ben Schwartz will always be John Ralphio to me. Anyway, that being said, I think the trailer was great. I think the action looks like it's fantastic. And I just remember thinking, like, how is this movie looking this good? Could it possibly be this good? And I love Awkwafina. Like, I used to kind of roll my eyes at Awkwafina. And then she did that movie. What was the actual title? The Goodbye? Or
The Farewell.
The Farewell. Thank you. She did that movie, The Farewell. And that movie completely made me do a 180 on Awkwafina. Because, like, have whatever feelings you want. She acted the hell out of that movie. She was awesome. She brought emotionality. She brought humor. She was fabulous in that. And then, of course, I loved her in Shang-Chi. So I think it's going to be fun to see her in this. But when I sat down then and really started looking over the people behind Renfield, the people who made Renfield, then I'm like, oh, well, that's why this thing looks so good. I mean, look at this lineup. So first of all, directing the film, you got Chris McKay, who did the Lego Batman movie, which might be the greatest Batman movie ever made. I mean, obviously not as good as The Dark Knight, but the Lego Batman movie, I think is actually better than the Lego movie.
It is.
It's amazing. If you have not seen this Lego Batman movie, you absolutely must. It's fantastic. And then I actually really ended up enjoying that Chris Pratt, The Tomorrow War movie they did. Now, he was also the director. He was on board. If you're wondering if you recognize his name, he was on board for a while. He was supposed to direct a Nightwing movie before it got axed. Now, technically speaking, it's never been officially said that it got axed. I don't think it's actually still happening, but he was attached for like over a year to direct a Nightwing movie. And I'm not sure what the status of it is, but he was also attached, I don't know if he still is, to a movie I was really, really interested in. They were doing a Johnny Quest movie. Remember the old cartoon?
Yeah.
He was attached to do a live action version of Johnny Quest, which I personally would love to see. So anyway, he's terrific. I love Chris McKay. And then when you get into the writers, you got Ryan Ridley, who was one of the writers on Community, which is really funny. But more importantly for me, he's one of the writers on Invincible, which I really like Invincible a lot. And then, of course, also writing this movie is Robert Kirkman, who is the big granddaddy of everything Walking Dead. Like everything that's Walking Dead, that's him, but he's also one of the writers on Invincible. So you get Chris McKay directing on a script by Ryan Ridley and Robert Kirkman. I mean, this thing clearly carries with it a lot of potential. So, I mean, I'm very stoked. Now, somehow, some way, Taylor gets his name on like every super secret fan screening list ever. Uh-huh. Have you seen Renfield?
No.
I'm shocked that you haven't seen it.
I'm dying to see this movie, though. They also this morning released, it's about 1 minute and 10 seconds, a featurette on Bloody Disgusting's website. It's good. It just shows some quick interviews with Awkwafina, Ben Schwartz, Nicholas Hoult, Nick Cage. They talk about how it's going to be very bloody, very gory, very violent. the comedy, and then how when you're laughing, right when you're laughing, they're gonna just.
Is it R-rated?
Yes.
I mean, okay, I didn't know if it was actually R-rated, but it sounds like it's R-rated. So, all right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Have you seen the new trailer, the final trailer for Renfield? Are you looking forward to this? Maybe you're like I was a while ago and going, Nicolas Cage is Dracula? I mean, really? Maybe that's how you're feeling. I did at one point. Whatever you guys are thinking, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down, let's move on to this. You guys will remember the other day, there was a shocking piece of news that came out, like really sent great tremors through the force. That longtime 17-year Marvel executive and someone that many people thought might be Kevin Feige's heir apparent to taking over Marvel Studios. Nobody ever said officially she was Victoria Alonso, and her sudden departure from Disney, or specifically from Marvel. And at the time when we covered this story and talking about this, which is really unusual because unlike something like Warner Brothers and DC, like if you go back to my time at, say, AMC, Warner Brothers, between ownership changes, CEO changes, studio president changes, creative director changes, without exaggeration, without hyperbole, there had to have been 15 to 20 major leadership changes between Warner Brothers, DC, all that kind of stuff, right? Like a lot of constant upheaval. But the only major change with Marvel Studios since my time at AMC has really been that, I don't know, Alan Horn left. And he wasn't even in Marvel. He was like the Marvel boss. But I mean, that's it. You've had Kevin Feige and his core team have been there leading the Marvel machine to being the biggest box office success. This is fact. The Marvel machine to being the biggest, most successful box office machine in the history of Hollywood. When you collectively add it all up, their films have made close to $30 billion. Let me say that number again. $30 billion, that franchise. And so when the announcement came that Victoria Alonso, this executive senior president of physical production and post-production and animation, all that kind of stuff was suddenly gone. That's something that we haven't seen happen in Marvel since I've been doing this job. It was really, and they had no details. Now, as the internet tends to do, a lot of speculation started going on, including, some people who fundamentally misunderstand what her job was, because I saw a lot of people online saying, well, good, because I didn't like the movies lately anyway, or the movies are too woke, or blah, blah, blah. You do understand, I have to remind people, Victoria Alonso was not a creative executive. She did not write the movies. She was in charge of, once the movies were caught up with the screenwriters under Kevin Feige's supervision and the directors, and they came up with what the movies were, she was just then in charge of making sure it could get done. That was her job, making sure it could get done. I guess in many ways, Victoria Alonso was to Kevin Feige what Jonathan Voico is for me, right? Like I'll come up with something, like direction, and then Jonathan he's the one who makes sure it gets done. And that was Victoria Alonso's job, right? So it left us, a lot of us wondering, well, why was she let go? Ant-Man and the Wasp not being all that good of a movie, that had nothing to do with her. So it led a lot of us wondering, well, now there's a story in Variety that is kind of giving some more kind of details and insight as to what's going on. No firm answers, but they're starting to give a little bit more context. They said this: Alonso's dismissal has raised numerous questions about behind-the-scenes workings at the prized content engine, Marvel. And with them, another unfavorable news cycle as Disney CEO Bob Iger attempts to stabilize the parent company amid economic unrests. While the cause of Alonso's termination is still unclear, the sources said, Variety sources that is, that the decision was made by a consortium including Human Resources, Disney's legal department, and multiple executives, including Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman, who is the one who succeeded Alan Horn, to whom all of Marvel Studios reports. Alonso's longtime boss and Marvel Chief Creative Officer Kevin Feige felt mired in an impossible situation and ultimately did not intervene. One source adds, Alonso was blindsided, another source added. So from what I understood, and I talked to one or two people, this was not Kevin Feige's decision. Kevin Feige did not want Victoria Alonso to go, from what I've heard. But as the article in Variety kind of points out, he was kind of put between a rock and a hard place, and he was unable to intervene. There's really nothing he could have done at that point. So that does raise up the question a lot. Now, some people, like we talked about the other day, suggested that, you know, we've heard all these stories like coming up in the last year or so about how unhappy visual effects artists were with Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And maybe that has something to do with it. However, according to this report, while there were people very unhappy with the way Marvel was going, Victoria Alonso, as the head of post-production, was put into an impossible situation. Like, listen to this. Let me get there. I lost my spot here. I lost my spot. Damn it. Anyway, the basic thing in the article that it was suggesting was that between 2021 and 2022, Marvel had 17 projects.
Right.
17 projects between 2021 and 2022. Here we go. Check. Okay, bring this back up again. Let's see. This is the thing. Alonso joined Marvel Studios in 2006, 3 years before Disney acquired the label for $4 billion. Over 17 years, she's been a fixture and all that kind of stuff. She's been a big thing for representation. She's a visible minority, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, listen to this. Numerous sources familiar with Marvel pointed to the tremendous pressure that the unit, the post-production unit, has been under over the past few years to deliver compelling content, not just to theaters, but also in the form of new streaming shows intended to bolster Disney+. In 2021 and 2022, Marvel unloaded an unprecedented torrent of comic book adventures, releasing 17 titles. In 2 years, 7 movies, 8 streaming series, and 2 TV specials over the course of 23 months. That breakneck distribution schedule, a product of the pandemic and the need to consistently feed Disney Plus, was not of Alonso's making. This wasn't her. She's not the one who appointed, we need to have 17 projects come out in 2 years. This wasn't her. She was just the one who had to be responsible for making sure shit got done. It was not of Alonso's making, says the Variety report. Marvel was far from the only studio tasked with delivering feature-level content for a newly launched streaming service, but it was Alonso's job to get each of those titles through Marvel's gargantuan post-production process. By the summer of 2022, cracks began to show in the company's seemingly impervious armor. And so it just kind of gives us a little bit more context that, listen, when you're the one responsible that says, hey, we're going to make these movies, and we're not even going to give a second thought to how much work, how much pressure, how much whatever goes into the visual effects. We're just going to make our movies, and then we're going to hand it off to you, and you make sure it all gets done. 17 projects in 23 months. I can't even begin to fathom how big of a job that was and how big of a job that is. Like, that's crazy.
I can't even watch 17 projects in that many months.
I mean, and a lot of people didn't. Now they're going to have to replace her. They're going to have to find somebody who can get it done. But if you want to know how much she was responsible for at Marvel, check out this last paragraph. Alonso's replacement was not immediately announced by Disney, but given her expansive portfolio of duties, it's going to take more than one person to fill her shoes. So she was the senior president of physical production, of post-production, and of animation. And by the way, she delivered. Those movies came out. Those TV shows came out. What If came out. And so now they're saying it's impossible for one person to do that job. It just can't be done. And how she did it, nobody knows. So that leaves me thinking, when we go back to that one paragraph about the fact that human resources was also involved in the decision and legal, the department was involved. I gotta Look, this is pure speculation on my part, okay? Pure speculation. But contrary to the weird belief going around out there, it's like she got fired because the quality of Marvel movies is going down. She wasn't a creative executive. That's like blaming Kevin Feige's Uber driver for the movies for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania not being good. It had nothing to do with it. That wasn't her job. It sounds to me, and again, let me reemphasize, pure speculation on my part. But with the involvement of the human resources and the legal department, it sounds like there may have been an incident. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm not suggesting what. I have not heard from anybody that that's the case. I do not have inside sources in the halls of Disney that have told me that, Victoria Alonso snapped one day and hit a food server over the head with a tray. I'm just saying, when I look at this and I look at who was involved in the decision-making process, as it wasn't Kevin Feige to make the decision to let her go, I have to guess that there must have been a specific incident that led to this, because they just kept throwing an unreasonable amount of work at her and she just got it done. So I don't know what it could be otherwise. Now, look, I know there's also a bunch of people who are mad because they're wussies. There are a bunch of people who are mad at Alonso because like 5 years ago or something, she once suggested that maybe the term X-Men might be outdated since there are so many women in the X-Men. Why that bothers you? I don't agree, but it doesn't bother me. You know why? Because I'm a fucking man. But anyway, a lot of people got all their little panties in a twist when she dares suggest that, I don't know, maybe X-Men is an outdated term. And everybody lost their shit, or a bunch of, weak-minded people lost their shit. I don't agree with her, but whatever. But I'm going to be really fascinated to see over the coming months what we find out, because this is a huge seismic shakeup at Marvel, because the key person in charge of making sure all the wild magic that Kevin Feige tries to create actually physically gets done is now not there. So it's going to be interesting to see. Guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you have some insight? Do you have some speculation about what could be happening here? How big of an impact do you think this is going to have on Marvel moving forward? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to our Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. If you guys have a question for the show and you'd like to hear your voice on our show, go ahead and call our hotline number anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And right now, we've got a question about where's Peacemaker 2? Check it out.
Hey guys, Alex here. Just wondering what the chances are you think of us getting a Peacemaker Season 2. I really love Season 1, so I'm really hoping we get a Season 2, but I know it wasn't on the DC slate. Thanks. Have a great day.
All right, Alex, thanks a lot for sending that in. And listen, one of my favorite things about being a movie and television fan is when you come across something that you think is going to be garbage and you end up absolutely falling in love with it. I hated the idea of them doing a Peacemaker series. I hated it. I thought it was the stupidest idea in the world. I thought nobody would care. And even when they dropped the first trailer, I remember being on the John Campea show and saying, that looked like it was filmed on a VHS camera and it looked stupid. And remember the first scene they released a clip, was their first promo piece. And the clip was in the diner. And he brings in, he has Eagly in the car and they're talking about he's got a pet eagle. I just remember thinking, this looks cheap. It just visually, it looked cheap. And this is not funny. And who the hell asked for a TV show with Peacemaker? Well, much like how that was my thought going into the Harley Quinn animated series, the opening credits for Peacemaker hit. And I was like, forget everything I've ever said about this show. This is one of the greatest things ever on TV. I still contend this is the greatest opening credits of any TV show ever. The Peacemaker opening number is the greatest opening credits. It beats Game of Thrones. It beats everything. It's the greatest opening sequence of anything ever. And I fell in love with this show. Not just because it was wildly raunchy humor, but because beneath it, and this is what James Gunn is so good at, beneath it were some real serious emotional stuff that went on. And it was a good story. And I enjoyed, and it was wild, and it was imaginative, and it was hilarious. And I loved this show. And surprisingly enough, it went on to become, while running, the biggest show in the world. It was the #1 show in the world. Well, it was running. Who the hell saw that coming? I don't even think John Cena saw that coming. Like even Cena didn't see it coming. And it was incredible. Now bring in the whole upheaval going on at DC. Would Peacemaker survive? Traditional logic says yes for 2 reasons. Number 1, it was the biggest thing that they've ever done. Success-wise, I mean, it's crazy. Number 2, one of the co-stars of the show just so happens, coincidentally, to be married to the CEO of DC. Harcourt in the show, that's James Gunn's wife. So traditional logic would say because of the tremendous, outrageous success of the show, it's probably going to continue. And the fact that it's a show starring the boss's wife, probably going to continue. However, though, where was Peacemaker during the big James Gunn, Peter Safran announcement? Because they're announcing stuff. They talked about Waller. That's a TV series. That's coming out. That's connected to the Peacemaker series. That's coming out. They're talking about projects coming out in 2025, 2026, and even on the edge of 2027. And in the midst of all that, there was no mention of Peacemaker. Now, James Gunn and Peter Safran were also quick to point out that this is just part of our announcement. I mean, we got a lot more planned and all that kind of stuff. So it is possible that at Comic-Con, James Gunn could be on stage and John Cena could come out, if you really want it, and John Cena comes walking out on stage at Comic-Con with his freaking hat and all that kind of stuff and says, we're back, coming summer 2024, Peacemaker season 2. I mean, they could totally do that. But I love these two together, by the way. I love these two together. Anyway, but I mean, it was kind of odd that it was not even brought up during the big DC announcement that they had. So while I still believe there is going to be a Peacemaker season 2, I still believe it. I would put, I loved him too. Well, that was Judo Master, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, I loved Judo Master. I loved him. Their fights were awesome. Okay, anyway, every picture you bring up, I just want to stop and talk about the episodes. So while I still believe there is going to be be very clear, I still believe there's going to be a Peacemaker season 2. I do also wonder if there is a chance that maybe there won't be. Because number 1, they made no announcements about it. Number 2, maybe they are trying to, kind of reboot, although they're doing Waller. But maybe the fact that it was James Gunn's wife's show, maybe that makes James Gunn think, you know what? To show that I'm not going to play favorites, I'm going to axe my own wife's show. Now, I'm not saying he's doing that. I think there will be a Peacemaker season 2. But maybe James Gunn and Peter Safran are sitting there and going, you know what? Maybe just to make it real clear I'm not playing favorites, I need to cancel my own wife's show. Although at that point, why would you cancel a show with hundreds of people who work on it? Why don't you just recast your wife's role? I mean, I don't know. So I don't know. Taylor, is there going to be a Peacemaker season 2?
I don't think we're going to get a straight up season 2 of Peacemaker. I think it's going to transition into Waller. I think we're going to get a big crossover. But I think the reason why it wasn't announced, I honestly think that's it. It's going to be Waller. We're going to get, I'm hoping for more Eagly, honestly. D. Bradley Baker as Eagly is so good. Judo Master, Jennifer Harcourt, or no, what's her name? Jennifer
Harcourt.
No, but Jennifer Holland. Right?
Yeah, Harcourt is the character's name.
I just love the whole cast. I'm trying not to spoil anything because there is something that recently happened that you know about, that I know about, that some people don't know about, that may have been pointing to they will continue these characters. So I hope they will.
Jonathan, is there going to be a Peacemaker season 2?
I mean, I was thinking maybe they could make an argument that this is a remnant still of the last of the DCEU. So they go through with season 2 and then there it ends, because they want to finish their story and it's successful. It's making, it's drawing people to the service,
There is one, there's another argument to be made. That remember I just said, like, maybe at this summer at Cinema or at Comic-Con, James Gunn's on stage and then out comes John Cena and whatever. Like, and if they do announce Peacemaker season 2 summer 2024, well, what does that mean? That would mean Peacemaker season 2 would come out before the beginning of the new DC, because the new DC doesn't start until 2025.
That's why I think it's a
Superman
remnant.
Legacy, right?
Yeah.
So they could theoretically still do a Peacemaker season 2 and still kind of reset the universe if they want. Anyway, there's a lot of possibilities.
I think his responsibilities are super stacked against him. He can't concentrate on making a great show if he's running a whole thing, right? So
It could be that he wrote this. He could have written the season 2 last year.
or maybe he's looking for the perfect person to helm season 2. still.
Maybe
I don't
take
know.
as the showrunner. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here.
So
But he
I-
certainly can't be the showrunner of season 2 and be prepping to direct Superman Legacy.
yeah. No way.
And run DC
Maybe
Studios. He
he's
can't
just-
do all three.
Maybe it's just not on his mind right now. You know what I mean?
Could be.
I did find a quote from Deadline. This was on January 31st about the continuation of Peacemaker. It says, from James Gunn, "We're using the same actors. This is a continuation of Peacemaker," in reference to Waller.
Right.
"I'm working on Superman, so we can't do Peacemaker season 2. We're working on Waller in between."
So is that a misdirect? Is that just the answer right there?
I think
If
that's
so, doing a Waller series instead of Peacemaker 2 sounds like a pretty stupid decision, but watch this. Now Waller comes out and I'm going to think that's the greatest show of all time. Guys, question is for you. What do you think? Do you think that is a guaranteed lock, stock, no doubt we're going to get a Peacemaker season 2? Or with all these things we've been talking about, do you think that does cast a little bit of doubt on it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, and before we continue, we're going to take a second here and thank a couple of the sponsors of today's show, our friends at Rocket Money and the Black Tux. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Rocket Money. The average person has around 12 paid subscriptions. Think about that. If you think you're only subscribed to a handful of services, you might want to double check. With Rocket Money, you can quickly identify and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want and don't even use. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel, and Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as the click of a button. My wife Ann and I moved out of Burbank 2 years ago, and one of the first things I discovered when I loaded up Rocket Money was that I was still paying for a gym membership I haven't even been to in Burbank in 2 years. So stop throwing away your money. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/Campea. That's rocketmoney.com/Campea. rocketmoney.com/Campea. Hey guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, the Black Tux. It's time we had the talk. You know the one I'm talking about, the one that ends in the 3-letter word. I'm talking about a tux. And when you need a tux, the best place to go to get one is the Black Tux. The Black Tux makes it super easy to get an on-trend, top-quality, guaranteed to fit tux without ever needing to leave your house. So here's how it works. Take the Black Tux Fit Quiz, pick the style you want to wear, and boom, your tux is delivered to your door 10 days before the day you need it. That's plenty of time to try it on and make sure it wears you well. And hey, if the fit's not quite right, say hello to the Black Tux Fit Guarantee. Order a better size within a day or two of receiving the less than great fitting one, and they'll send another one right away at no extra cost. Their expert fit specialists will help you find the perfect style tux or suit and make sure it fits just right. Listen, I've been dubious in the past about online sites or apps that say they can get your measurements, but the Fit Quiz with the Black Tux works great. And man, I wish I had had these guys for so many events I've attended over the years. So rent or buy, the Black Tux is the best place to go when you need a tuxedo for a wedding or a special night. And right now, when you go to theblacktux.com/Campea and use the code Campea, you'll save $20 off your order. That's TheBlackTux.com/Campea, code Campea to save $20. And thank you to our friends at Rocket Money and the Black Tux for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. Remember, guys, when you check out and support our sponsors, because they're awesome, you're actually supporting us. So if you look down in the description of this video, you'll find links and promo codes to our sponsors. And again, thank you to Rocket Money and the Black Tux. All right, guys, With that down, let's go back to our Mint Mobile hotline that's asking a question that's kind of around right now is, how much has Dwayne Johnson's image suffered as a result of all the fiascos going on?
Hey, what up, crew? My name is Zeke. I was listening to your guys' topic on The Rock and Shazam and all the mumbo-jumbo that happened with that. My question is concerning how much is this really going to affect The Rock's image with the general audience? And then furthermore, how do you think this will affect how likely he is to get cast, or maybe now less likely to get cast among studio execs and casting directors and stuff like that? Do you think this really affects his image in a way that might make him not be this golden boy of Hollywood, the franchise Viagra that you like to call him? Or do you think that this is kind of maybe just some bad publicity right now, in a few months we won't even be thinking about it? Thank you, guys. I'm going.
All right, thanks a lot for calling that in, Zeke. And you know, it's interesting because in all the years that I've been doing this, and you know what? In July, I just realized this the other day. In July, it will mark my 20th year doing online film punditry. My very, very first blog post on my website, The Movie Blog, was July of 2003. I did a post about the upcoming movie Seabiscuit.
Oh my gosh.
And anyway,
movie.
but in like the 20, it is a good movie. In like the 20 years I have been doing this sort of thing, I don't ever recall having any kind of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson backlash. I mean, he certainly put out movies that people didn't like and things like that. For sure, that happens with everybody. But I don't ever recall sensing any kind of a questioning of the image of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. If anything, for the last 20 years, he has been kind of the golden boy. The one the media and people like me and fans all love. I do not believe he is, people misinterpreting. I say he's my second favorite movie star. That's not the same as saying I think he's the second best actor. No. Very different things. But he is my second favorite movie star, one of my favorite personalities, one of my favorite guys just to flat out see on screen. I think he's charming. I think he's fun. I enjoy his work a lot. That being said, with Black Adam came a huge gamble. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson decided with Black Adam, he was pushing, to use a poker analogy, he was going to push all of his chips into the middle. He was going all in on Black Adam. Because not only did he spend a lot of years trying to get it there, but he spent a lot of time talking about this movie. And as we later found out, this movie kind of became an anchor point for him to make a move to try to take over the DC studios. And here's the thing, you know how we always talk about, I say it in movies, but it's true in life, winning cures everything? Had Dwayne Johnson successfully, let's say he was the new CEO of DC Studios, right? We may be looking at the story a very, very different way. It would have been maybe inspirational about Dwayne Johnson had a dream. He loved the comic books and he had a dream of being the head of a comic book movie studio, and he went after that dream and he got it. I mean, then it's a feel-good story, right? At that point, it's a feel-good story, which has basically been the 20 years of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in Hollywood. It's been a feel-good story, but he didn't get it. And instead, the narrative kind of became, did you hear he was going around behind people's backs and trying to maneuver to get the studio and all that? That became the narrative. Fair or unfair, that became the narrative. And now we can go over to my screen here. Like, we get headlines like this that we never would have seen before. How Dwayne Johnson kneecapped Black Adam and Shazam 2 while trying to take over DC. Like, this guy has been the golden boy for the media, for the fans, everybody. You would never see headlines like this before. But, sorry, the bag of word mom. But now, today, with him having been behind the Black Adam project for so long and pushed all of his chips in it and really went after it, you know, Black Adam clearly didn't work out the way people kind of hoped. I know it didn't work out the way I had hoped. I still like the movie. Like, I like Black Adam. I don't care what anybody says. I like it, but I do have some major issues with it, and I totally understand why there are so many people who didn't like it. I get it, even though I myself am a fan. but it certainly kind of fell on its face financially. The movie didn't even make $400 million. It didn't even make $400 million for a Dwayne Johnson-led superhero film. Granted, it was an unknown. A lot of people try to come to its defense. Well, not everybody. A lot of people don't even know who Shazam or Black Adam are. I get that, but nobody knew who Guardians of the Galaxy were either. I mean, and they didn't have nearly as big stars as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson did. I mean, and obviously there was a number of problems connected with Black Adam. There were a number of factors working against it that we don't have time to go into all again here. But obviously there was more than one factor. There was a bunch. And it can't all be laid on the massive shoulders of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But the question is, with the, let's call it what it was, the failure, financially at least, of Black Adam, the failure of it to become a serious franchise, the failure of it to become what Dwayne Johnson wanted it to be, where it was going to transform the DC universe, where the hierarchy of power in the world of DC has changed. The failure to change that hierarchy of power, because he wanted to make DC all about him and Superman, which I'm all for. I guess and Henry Cavill still would have been there. But that being said, it didn't work. Didn't work. And Rock got caught with his pants down. Listen, when you swing big.
Oh, no.
Oh, he swings big.
Listen, that was not meant to be connected.
Well, how big?
When you take big swings.
I'm just trying to save you.
When you take big swings and you hit it and goes out of the park, the people stand and cheer. But when you take a big swing and miss, your body does this weird big full swing twist thing and you look a little bit silly. The Rock has always had the guts to take big swings, but not often has he missed. And this one he missed. So, and then with the news coming out that he actually kind of interfered, granted, it wasn't a lot. People are blowing that out of proportion. It wasn't a lot, but he did to a degree interfere with what they were trying to do with Shazam 2. It's not a great look. And again, bring it up here again, Jonathan, it ends to getting headlines like this that we never would have seen before. So the question is, has this done long-term damage to the image, the perfect image of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? It certainly has done momentary damage. I mean, like right now, today, I just go through my comments section the last couple of shows, and like the comments that people leave, they're normally, even for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movies that they didn't like, people say, yeah, I love watching The Rock, but yeah, this movie wasn't for me. But I've been going through the comment section the last couple of days, and there's a lot of people who's like, you know what, Dwayne has never been this, and Dwayne's not all that good, and Dwayne shouldn't have done this, and it was really scummy of Dwayne to do that. So there is at least a momentary problem with his image, yes. But will there be long term? I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. What's Dwayne's next movie?
I was looking right now. He has 7 upcoming projects.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Of course he has 7 upcoming projects.
Including The King, San Andreas 2, Big Trouble in Little China, Jungle Cruise 2, the Red Notice sequel, Doc Savage, and Red 1.
Yeah, I think a couple of those aren't happening anymore. There's a couple on that list I know for sure aren't happening anymore. But I mean, I like San Andreas. I thought San Andreas was great.
I just can't believe that there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what does he do? The Return. This time, it's personal.
Oh, there we go. Aftershock.
Aftershock. Oh my God! You just came up with the title.
Well, I did, and he copied
San
me.
Andreas 2 Aftershock. Again, we go back to that saying, winning cures everything. If his next movie that comes out, do we have a sense of what the next one's going to be there, Taylor? Does it look like?
It looks like The King is up next.
Which one is that?
He plays King Kamehameha, so...
Oh,
I swear that's
awesome.
Say that again?
Kamehameha.
Is it listed as being in pre-production, production, post-production? Does
Let's
it give anything on it? But look, again, all it takes in this business, if Dwayne's next movie comes out and it's a crowd pleaser, what's that?
You know what? The next one up is Red 1. That's the only one that says post-production.
Oh, that's the one he's doing with Chris Evans, right?
I can check for you.
I think Red 1's the one he's doing with Chris Evans.
Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, Nick Kroll, J.K.
It's
Simmons.
a Christmas movie, isn't it? I think it's about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
If I remember. Okay, look, so let's go with this. Let's say Red 1 comes out. If people love it, guess what? Winning cures everything. It just does. But if Red One comes out and people don't like it, it's going to exasperate these types of headlines. If San Andreas Aftershock comes out and like
It's official.
and it's official and it's not good, it's going to exasperate. It's going to make these just magnify the problem.
To the insiders, like to the public, I don't think the public knows that he railroaded anything at WB, if he even did or not. But the insiders, the executives, the producers, they're going to make sure these articles keep rolling, probably.
Maybe. Because I'll tell you what, but I will guarantee you, I think whether or not this is going to have long-term problems for his image is all going to depend on how good are his next 1 or 2 movies. I think that will dictate what happens. Because if they're bad, this is going to get amplified. If they're good, everybody's going to forget about this one temporary stumble. At least I hope they do, because I don't care. I mean, look, if he interfered with Shazam 2, I don't like that he did that. But I cannot like 1 or 2 things that somebody does, but still like them overall. I'm sure Anne doesn't love every little single thing that I do, but she loves me. So yeah, there's that. I don't know, guys. Question is for you. What do you think? Do you think that with what's gone on with DC and Black Adam and Shazam 2, do you think there's been some image damage for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who has been the golden boy for the past couple of decades? If so, do you think that image damage might be long-term, or do you think it's going to be forgotten about? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. One of the big movies that a lot of people are looking forward to coming out, and I can't even remember the release date, if you can look it up for me, Taylor, is Fast 10. By the way, I don't even know, what are we supposed to be referring to it as? Is it Fast 10 or is it Fast X?
I think it's X. It comes out May 19th.
So it comes out May 19th. So we're getting close. We're getting close to Fast X, Fast 10, Fast Fuck. I don't know. Whatever they're going to call this thing. So
That went downhill.
we're getting close to the next Fast movie, right? And listen, they've got a really impressive cast. I like the Fast and the Furious franchise quite a bit, but I hated Fast 9. Hated it. I thought it was garbage. Like a lot of times I'll say something, I didn't like it, but I don't think it was terrible. No, I thought Fast 9 was complete garbage, even though I really do like the franchise. But I'll tell you what, man, when they dropped that trailer for Fast 10, that was an all kinds of awesome trailer. That trailer was fantastic. So it reignited my excitement for this movie. Well, anyway, Michelle Rodriguez, who we just watched in Dungeons and Dragons, and by the way, go watch Dungeons and Dragons when it opens at the end of the month, because it's a lot of fun. And Michelle Rodriguez is awesome in it. Well, Michelle Rodriguez is talking now about Fast 10, and she's come out and said that there is a massive surprise ending.
They land on Mars.
They actually land on Mars. They make first contact with alien life.
Jar Jar.
Dominic Toretto personally saves an alien race. Anyway, but she said this, talking about Fast 10. She says, I think people are going to be really, really surprised. And we're going to get a lot of open mouths at the end of Fast 10.
Wow.
Jeez, man. Keep it in your pants, bro. The whole day so far.
Eric, now I got to start again. I think people are going to be really, really surprised. We're going to get a lot of open mouths at the end of Fast 10. Let's just put it that way. It's going to be like, really? What? Like that? Like how I was in theater. I was like, oh my God, what have we done? All right. Let's take a moment here.
You know what that reminds me of? Remember in SNL when I can't think of his name now, but he'd read the headlines on the news update, and he'd be like, "So yeah, anyway, okay, so this is happening, and it's just crazy. Oh wow, and
I don't remember that character.
He would never finish a sentence, but he'd read headlines, and he'd have to analyze the news, but he never had anything to analyze.
I don't remember that character.
That's what
it sounds like a total SNL thing to do.
Oh man, oh wow, what? Did they just wait? Hold on.
Really? What? Like that? That's how I was in theater. I was like, oh my God, what have we done? Okay, so this is a franchise where they literally drove a car into space with duct tape in the last movie. Let's not forget that. So when I see here Michelle Rodriguez, because remember, this is leading into Fast 11, right? So they're going to be doing a Fast 11 or Fast XI or Fast whatever. What on earth can a movie franchise that has already driven a car into outer space, or a movie that has had a very mortal Vin Diesel grab chains with his arms and pull down an entire concrete structure with the mighty power of family? Like,
Yes.
what can this franchise do?
Captain Dom right here.
Yeah, Captain Dom. What else can you do? What can they possibly do at the end of this? It's like, what? Really? Like that? Mouths are going to be open. People are going to be shocked. Oh my God, what have we done? Like, what can they possibly do?
Time machine.
Don't laugh. Listen, this is the strangest thing about the Fast and Furious franchise. Nothing is off the table. You could tell me, there was a lot of talk before, remember a few years ago, about a Fast and Furious and a Jurassic World crossover? It would not fucking surprise me if a T-Rex showed up at the end of this. I'm not even kidding.
Oh wow, that's actually a great idea. No, I mean your idea, like your prediction is actually pretty good.
I'm not
The
kidding.
idea?
I'm not even joking. This is Fast and the Furious. There is absolutely nothing that would prevent this movie from having Dominic Toretto win a final race against Jason Momoa. And Jason Momoa says, "You think it's over? It's not over. Meet Pepe." And he snaps his fingers and a T-Rex comes running through the jungle. Dominic Toretto grabs his open jaws with his arms.
It totally explains why Justin Lin left.
Yeah,
Like,
Justin Lin was
doing
like, I'm
all
out.
this crap, and now you want to add dinosaurs? No.
Or spaceships.
It's better
This
than the
is
car you
Fast and the
used.
Furious. I'm
Yeah.
simply telling you, look, would anybody honestly goes, is there anybody out there who, if you were sitting in Fast 10 and that movie ended with an alien spaceship coming in to the movie, was there actually anybody out there that does not believe that could happen in a Fast and the Furious movie?
I don't doubt there's gonna be there could be a space shuttle race.
We're gonna, instead of I live
Like
my
a
life a
rocket
quarter
race or
mile at
something.
a time. No, first one to do 4 circuits around the globe. I mean, I'm not going to be surprised. Who has died in this franchise that hasn't been brought back already?
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I
they'll have 18 characters. I'm not going to be surprised if fucking Superman shows up.
They went to a kindergarten focus group. Like, what would be cool in a movie? And the kids just kind of blurted out the first thing that would be cool in a movie. And they're like, that's it.
$1 billion, baby.
So, I mean, I don't know. What does Michelle Rodriguez, who, by the way, run out to watch her in Dungeons and Dragons because she's great in it. Michelle Rodriguez says this is going to shock people. That she herself is going, oh my God, what have we done at the end of what could it be? Ray, you got a theory?
Dominic Toretto turns heel.
Didn't they already do that in Fast 8?
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't know.
Do it again.
remember.
Do it again. It's better now. He's more powerful.
Now
I've
he's
only seen
more
the first
evil.
one and Tokyo Drift, unfortunately.
I just don't know. I don't know what this could possibly mean. Guys, question is for you. Do you have any theories about what is this shocking ending that will have mouths open and people saying, oh my God, what have they done? Nothing is off the table with Fast and Furious. Do you have a theory, a leading theory, whatever you think it would be, no matter how ridiculous? It's probably possible. Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this here, shall we? You know, during the streaming wars, we've seen very quickly, in the matter of just a couple of years, massive momentum shifts, right? We've seen from the streaming was coming in, it's like, that's it. Everything is going to be streaming now. And Netflix was throwing tons of money at tons of projects, to which everybody said, you know, at some point you got to make money. And then all of a sudden, all the streaming services and the studios behind them started realizing, maybe streaming wasn't the golden egg that we all thought we were. And turns out that you do make more money with your movies in theaters. So there was a little bit of that. The one holdout to that has been Netflix. Netflix has been the one real big holdout on that. And even they are starting to crack a little bit. We talked a while ago about the fact that with Glass Onion, they actually did an experiment of putting Glass Onion in theaters. And they enjoyed some pretty good success with that. But they're still, when you talk to Netflix, they're saying, oh, no, we're streaming first. Okay, that's fine. I don't think it's going to last. But you know who is way smarter than Netflix? Mm-hmm. Apple. Apple's way smarter. And they just came out. There's a story that came out in, I believe, Bloomberg that reports this is huge. Now, this isn't going to be covered by a lot of people because it's not splashy. It's not negative. It's not about Dwayne Johnson, buying a new cat or whatever. So this is going to fly under a lot of people's radars. But believe me when I say, if you are a movie fan, this is really significant. Apple has committed to spending $1 billion a year for theatrically released films. Now, of course, Apple has Apple TV Plus. That's their big streaming thing right now. And there's 2 must-watch things on Apple TV Plus right now, which is Ted Lasso and Harrison Ford's Jason Segel's Shrinking, which might be the best thing Apple TV Plus has ever put out, at any rate. And so they make original movies to go right on Apple TV Plus. Absolutely they do. But Apple TV Plus is realizing theatrical is where we make our money. And let's go over to my screen here. They have committed $1 billion a year for theatrical films. Not $1 billion, $1 billion per year. And part of their rationale is exactly what me, Rob, and other people have been saying for a long, long time. If you want more success with your streaming service, put your movies in theaters. It's not either we have theatrical success or we have streaming success. The 2 are connected. You want more success for your streaming service? The data has proved that movies that go to theaters first then end up getting viewed more on streaming services than if they had bypassed the theaters. It's the numbers. It's science. It's just what it is. And so Apple has learned this lesson. And it says here, the tech giant is committed to multiple theatrical releases, and they will use the theaters to help promote their streaming service. They understand it's all connected. So the article is fantastic. Let me read a little bit of it here. Apple Inc. plans to spend $1 billion a year to produce movies that will be released in theaters, according to people familiar with the company's plans. Part of an ambitious effort to raise the profile in Hollywood and lure subscribers to its streaming service. Now, why would they do this? There's a couple of reasons the article goes on to talk about. Number 1, because it'll make them money by putting the movies in theaters. Number 2, it'll raise the profile of Apple TV Plus if you have big movies in theaters that then can only be watched on your streaming service once it goes to streaming. That's a huge part. But it also goes on to talk about the fact that, listen to this, while Apple has agreed to theatrical releases in order to please talent and outmaneuver competitors for projects. Let me read that line again. Apple has agreed to theatrical releases in order to please talent and outmaneuver competitors for projects. See, here's the thing. Now, in today's environment, when we had the big fiasco at Warner Brothers, where, what was the guy, Jason Kilar, when he was the CEO at Warner Brothers, and he made the most idiotic decision in the history of entertainment to release all Warner Brothers movies that year in theaters and on HBO Max on the same day. What that has made a lot of talent then go is when they're negotiating with studios and distributors is, I want guarantees that this project is going to be in theaters. Apple has taken advantage of that because when they've been in bidding wars with things like Netflix and other streamers, Apple brings this card to the table. We will give your movie a theatrical release first. And that has been the deciding factor for a number of things, including the upcoming Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio film, Killers of the Flower Moon. Right? So not only is Apple realize we'll make money with the movies in theaters, we'll get more exposure and success for our streaming service by putting them in theaters, and it will give us an advantage in negotiating deals with projects that may otherwise have gone to other places, but we can guarantee we'll give you guys a theatrical release. Now, the thing goes on to talk about some of the projects they've got in the waking. I'll just let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Here's some of the other things here. Apple has approached movie studios about partnering to release a few titles in theaters this year and a slate of more films in the future, said people who asked not to be identified because the plans are private. The list of potential releases that are going to go theatrical now include Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, which we already knew, which stars Leonardo DiCaprio, the spy thriller with my boy, Henry Cavill, Argyle, from director Matthew Vaughn, and Napoleon, the new Ridley Scott drama about the French conqueror that is also starring Joaquin Phoenix. A spokesperson for Apple has declined to comment. But now, because of this, Apple's going to say these aren't just going to go straight to Apple TV Plus. We're going to put these in theaters. We're going to make money there. We're going to super raise the profile of those movies. We're going to put them then on Apple TV Plus, where they're going to be really recognized films because they had big theatrical releases, and it's going to draw more people to our streaming service. It's all connected. It is systemic. And at some point, people in this business, including Netflix, are going to have to understand it's not streaming or theatrical. You make them work together, and you're going to enjoy bigger success. And you're going to attract better talent and better projects because real filmmakers want their movies in a movie theater. Real storytellers, real thing. They want their movies in. I mean, they'll take streaming if they can't get theatrical, but that they really want guys like Scorsese, guys like Spielberg, guys like Peter Jackson. They're going to want their stuff in theaters, unless they do some documentaries, right? And so Apple is just ahead of the game of everybody. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Apple is committing to $1 billion a year for theatrically released films. To $1 billion. Do you think that other streamers, particularly Netflix, is going to have to finally look at this and say, look, everybody else gets it except us, and they'll finally make that sort of a change? Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe you don't think it'll work for Apple and it'll, backfire on them. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to our final and main topic here today, shall we? And that one is this. We found out again that the constant, rotating door of filmmaking talent that comes and goes from Star Wars project continued on some more.
Yep.
As Damon Lindelof, the guy behind, shows like Lost, Watchmen, The Leftovers, he's got many Emmys setting up on his shelves. His projects have won a lot of different Emmys and awards and all that kind of stuff. He was supposed to be writing a particular Star Wars project, the next one that's apparently coming up, and all of a sudden he was gone. Well, they seem to have gone out and got a pretty damn good replacement, because according to reports in Deadline, it's now official. Stephen Knight, the guy behind Peaky Blinders, which I admit I'm not the biggest fan of Peaky Blinders myself, but there's no denying that is a show that has a rabid fan base. The people who like Peaky Blinders love that show with Cillian Murphy. They love that show. He's also the writer of Eastern Promises, which I love that movie. Anyway, they went out and got Stephen Knight, who is not to be confused with Stephen S. DeKnight, who is the showrunner of Spartacus and showrunner of Daredevil season 1, and all. That's a different guy altogether. But Stephen Knight, not to be confused with Stephen S. DeKnight, has been brought on to write the new Star Wars film. Now, not a lot is known about this project right now. We know who the director is, which we've talked about before. And this guy's resume is great. This is in Deadline. Knight is a writer, director, and producer, best known for creating, writing, and executive producing the acclaimed BBC's crime drama Peaky Blinders, led by Cillian Murphy, which ran for 6 seasons. He's also written and directed films like Tom Hardy's star Locke, which is awesome. That's a great movie. If you haven't seen Locke, you should. Also, scripting such notable titles as Spencer, which I thought was really good, The Girl in the Spider's Web, which is also really good, Pawn's Sacrifice, which is all really good, The 100-Foot Journey, which is a fantastic movie, and Eastern Promises, which is a fantastic movie, among others. Other notable series created by Knight include Apple TV's C. I got to admit, I'm not a big fan of Jason. That's the Jason Momoa show. I'm not a big fan of C personally. And FX's Taboo, which I did not watch. News of involvement with the new Star Wars pick was first reported by Variety. So they've gone out and gotten themselves a really good writer to get involved. That's great. Now, what is the date of Star Wars Celebration?
I think it's like April 7th, 8th, 9th. I could double check.
April 7th, right? So we are, what are we, like 2 weeks away? Roughly 2 weeks away from Star Wars Celebration. I give it a 50-50 chance that he leaves the project by then.
Well,
Look,
I mean, there are creative differences you have to take into account.
I mean, I think creative, he walked in, had their first meeting, like, yeah, no, I can't do this. I think there is legitimately a fit. Come on, show of hands, everybody on the internet. I can see you all. Raise your hands if you really don't believe there's any chance that between now and Star Wars Celebration that we may not hear that he has left the project.
Please don't be raising your
Here's
hands.
the problem, though, is that they declined his idea at the meeting. He walked out, and then they released, he's going to be the new showrunner of this.
It's like, no. I'm not, seriously, at this point, with Lucasfilm's track record, the last couple of years of keeping talent, I'm not kidding. I will not be stunned if we end the show and then Ray goes, hey, did you see what they just reported on The Wrap?
The Rock
Stephen
just
Knight has
insisted-
departed the Star
The
Wars.
Rock just insisted that he leave Star Wars.
Rock is going to change the hierarchy of the Star Wars universe. That Stephen Knight is now gone. Come on, seriously. Would anybody be surprised at this point?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I would be a little like, okay, that's weird, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very odd.
Yeah.
And if it were any other studio, completely shocked that they just announced this person and then like a couple days later they're gone. But the reality is the status of Lucasfilm at the moment is none of us would fall out of our chairs in shock if we found out an hour and a half from now that Stephen Knight is no longer attached to Star Wars. Now look, what will probably happen is they will shuffle him out on stage at Star Wars Celebration going, yay, new Star Wars movie coming, yay. And he's going to kind of look awkward. It's like, I haven't actually signed anything yet. But they're going to bring him out on stage. They're going to hype up this new movie. And listen, as a Star Wars fan, I'll take anything at this point. Like what has it been? 4 years since we've had a Star Wars movie?
4 years.
We're going to go into 5 and then 6. It's probably going to be minimum 6 years before in between Star Wars films. At this point, I will take anything that they'll give us.
I mean, who's left on the checklist? We need to announce Ben Affleck and then the Russo brothers, and then that's it.
That's right. The Russo brothers coming. I mean, I do believe he'll make it there. I do believe they'll make the announcement. I do believe they'll have him, the director, Kathleen Kennedy, all of them on stage, all that kind of stuff. And maybe this will be Kathleen Kennedy's final hurrah of a big Star Wars announcement before she rides off into her next projects. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't think any of us would be stunned if we find out that he leaves.
I mean, you know what they need to do is have a panel at Star Wars Celebration with Gilroy and Favreau and a question and answer of like, how do you stick around this place?
yeah, how do you, and honestly, listen, that would be, I'm not going to go to Star Wars Celebration. I'm never going to go to another Disney run convention again. But the one thing I would have been tempted for, if they had said there would be a, Stewards of the Galaxy panel with Tony Gilroy and Jon Favreau, even I would have to say I'd be tempted to go see that, because those are the two guys that are really kind of shepherding anything that's half decent. Tony Gilroy, to me especially, because what he did with Andor is remarkably good. But look, with all my pessimism, and I granted, I've developed, unfortunately, a bunch of pessimism when it comes to Lucasfilm and stuff like that. I admit it, I have. I don't like it. I feel bad about it. But deep down, I am still really cheering. And I am hoping this turns out great. Because, listen, if you lose whatever, hey, bottom line is they brought in a really talented writer. And they brought in a writer that's more in the vein of Tony Gilroy, right? When you look at I almost said Tonight. When you look at Knight's credits, you're talking about a guy his content would be more like Tony Gilroy's Andor than anything else, right? Whereas maybe with Damon Lindelof, it'd be a little bit more like Favreau's Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, stuff like that. Whereas this guy would be more in the vein of a Tony Gilroy and Andor. And listen, while I'm sitting here saying I'm not going to be shocked if this guy just suddenly leaves, I'm actually kind of hopeful that maybe this could be something that's really good.
I want to see him cameo in his own film as an Imperial officer. He has that look.
He does have an Imperial officer look, doesn't he? Why is your uniform disheveled? I mean, I could see that. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Amongst the whole rotating door of talent coming and going from Lucasfilm, they did go out. Listen, give credit where it's due. They went and got a really gifted dude in Stephen. I keep wanting to say tonight, Stephen Knight. They went and got a super talented dude in Stephen Knight, and him writing a Star Wars project could be incredibly appealing if he sticks around. What do you guys think about that? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there. All right, guys. With that all down, we're going to move on and take your questions that you guys have been sending in to our tip link at streamelements.com/John Campea/tip. Remember, guys, you can send it in anytime. You don't have to wait for the show to be live. Anytime, 24/7, 2 o'clock in the morning, a thought enters your head, go ahead and fire it on into us. But before we get to those, we're going to take just a quick moment here and thank a couple of other sponsors of today's show, our friends at Fume and Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Be smart. Don't start. Kick the habit. Put it out before it puts you out. All phrases we've heard 100 times, yet we still continue to have bad habits. And I know all of you guys completely relate with me when I say kicking bad habits feel like it's impossible. Well, thankfully, our sponsor Fume is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. And understand, Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. Instead of pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals like a vape, Fume uses cores infused with plants like peppermint and cinnamon for delicious natural flavors. And Fume's new version 2 model is snappy and tactile. The easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed perfectly to do just that. It's Fume's goal to make switching easy and even enjoyable. They have thousands of 5-star reviews from people just like you who've successfully switched when other solutions simply don't work. So head to tryfume.com and use the code Campea to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors and the new version 2 Fume to help kickstart your positive habits. That's tryfum.com and use the code Campea to save an additional 10% off on your order today. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. If saving more and spending less is one of your top goals for 2023, why are you still paying insane amounts of money every month for your phone bill? Switching to Mint Mobile is the easiest way to save this year. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know I made the switch over to Mint Mobile a while ago. The process couldn't have been easier, and I can't believe that I am spending less than a third of what I was spending on one of the other major carriers before. By going online only and eliminating the traditional costs of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily in minutes with eSIM. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Fume and Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that all down, let's get over to the questions you guys have been sending in. Jonathan, what do we got?
All right, first up, we have K-Rock, who writes, John and all other lovers of raunchy comedy, I recommend you watch the late, great Patrice O'Neal's stand-up special, Elephant in the Room. You won't be disappointed. That shit had me in tears.
I'm not even sure I know off the top of my head who Patrice O'Neill is.
It's good. He was he used to be one of the warehouse workers in the office. He was there. He was
Was
in
he?
one of the episodes, or a couple of the episodes. He was like a.
I bet if I saw his picture, I know who
Yeah.
we're talking. But I don't. All right, I will keep my eyes open for that because I am a big fan of raunchy comedy, admittedly. All right, what's next?
All right, we've got Damon Hawk who writes, "What up, crew? What if the beginning of DD Born Again, Daredevil Born Again, takes place during the blip? Karen and Foggy are blipped. If they're shooting sequentially, this could explain why we don't have them yet." That's true. Thanks for bringing on Filthy.
That is true. And a friend of mine and I were kind of talking about that. Like because this goes back to a story we talked about yesterday where the first picture from the set where they're shooting Daredevil shows a church sign in the background with the date 2020 on it, which would take place during the blip. Now, we were wondering, does that mean that that's a flashback in the show? Or does it mean that the whole show takes place during the blip? Or was it just a sign that's outdated? I mean, we don't know. Here's the thing, though. Let's say that is the reason that it does take place during the blip, and they're going to say that Foggy and Karen were blipped, right? That still leaves a couple of things unanswered. Number one, they've recast Vanessa. It's a new actress playing Vanessa. So it's probably a new Vanessa. Number two, it does not explain how Kingpin suddenly has superpowers. So, I mean, it would kind of explain why no Karen and why no Foggy, but it still leaves a bunch of other questions left unanswered. So I don't know, maybe we'll find out. We'll see what they got in store for us, but that is a possibility. All right, what's next?
Okay, Anonymous writes, "About to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once for the 7th time. Since they did a reissue, for the 3rd time, I'm taking a different family member for this experiential event. Can't wait, plus it's my Friday. Game day tomorrow for John Wick."
I'll tell you what, game day is today, because today, once we're done the show here today, we're going to be packing up. Ray and I are going to go pick up his sister, my wife, and we're going to go watch John Wick Chapter 4 this afternoon. Taylor, you saw it already.
Yeah, it is.
Did you like it?
Best one. It is so good. I had a smile on my face. The entire movie, Donnie Yen is just like, this is the best I've ever seen Donnie Yen. I am so hyped to see this movie again. You're going to have so much fun.
Well, guys, keep your eyes open for my right out of the theater reaction. We're going to have that up a little bit later today. I cannot wait. And yes, Everything Everywhere All at Once. What a great thing to go and see in the theater. I remember as soon as Ann and I came out, we said, we got to plan to come see this again. And obviously, best picture of the year. Glad you're going to have that experience. All right, what's next?
All right, we've got, we just did that. JRod71 writes, "James Gunn saying he'd work with Margot Robbie again. How about Jason Momoa as Lobo, Henry Cavill for Jor-El, and Margot Robbie as Lois? She's about the right age."
Well, she's about the right age, depending on what story you're telling. Like if Superman is like 25, I don't know. Like how old is Margot Robbie? I think she's in her 30s now. I mean, I would guess.
I mean,
She's 32.
She's 32? So yeah, so it all depends. So saying the right age, it all depends on what they're trying to do with it. I don't think we're going to see Henry Cavill as Jor-El. I mean, we can put that to bed already. But yeah, when James Gunn said the other day he's absolutely wants to work with Margot Robbie more, that might mean more Harley Quinn, or it could mean, like if Jason Momoa is going to be a Lobo, why couldn't she just be a different character in the DC universe now? And you know what? Sign me up. I could see her as a Lois Lane. Why not? All right, what's next?
All right, next up we've got Amin, who writes, "Without getting into specifics, Last of Us Part 2 story includes a lot of flashbacks, time jumps, and perspective changes. For season 2 and 3, do you think they will mostly stick to the way the game told the story or tell it in a more chronological order?"
I think they're going to do it probably because I think it would work best for the show to do it the way they did it in the game. Quite often, I think you need to change it up from the way they did it in a game or in the comic book or in a pre-existing piece of material to make it better suit a screen. But I actually think the way they did it in the game would suit the screen really well. So I'm going to guess that they're going to do it the way they did it in the game. But remember, the showrunners have also said they're going to be making some significant changes. What those changes are, I don't know. All right, what's next?
Okay, Jay asks, "Do you think David Zaslav is upset at these box office numbers for the last 2 DCEU movies?"
Oh, of course he is. Like,
happy.
of course, him and his people had nothing to do with the making of these movies, but it's still money coming into his bank account. I mean, his Warner Brothers, his company's bank account. Of course he's upset. Of course he wanted better. But again, I mean, these aren't the movies. They did not make these movies when they owned these things. So this a bunch of it's outside of their control. They bought into a Warner Brothers and specifically into a DC company whose reputation had already been massively damaged with mediocre quality and all that kind of stuff. So he would have, but still, yeah, he wanted to make more money. Absolutely, he's upset. All right, what's next?
All right, Jay comes back with another question. Will animated films go back to that classic 2D feel, or is that dead in the water?
It's dead. That's not to say that we will never get 2D animated stuff. Not at all.
But not for mainstream.
No, it'll never be mainstream again. And one of the big reasons is simply because animators today are learning 3D animation. They're not learning traditional animation. I think you'll get a novelty project here and there. I do. I think those will still happen. But as far as making a comeback, nah, the days of that are now gone, sadly. All right, what's next?
All right. Jake Clark writes, if not Levi will love Dwayne Johnson as adult Billy Shazam, or maybe
that never happened. Never in a million trillion years. Number one, they would never let him do it. Number two, he would never want to do it. So yeah, probably would never happen. All right, what's next?
All right. We've got Super Duper Uber Nuber.
Love it.
Daredevil Born Again takes place in 2020. Maybe Karen and Foggy weren't cast because they were blipped.
Yeah, again, somebody else brought that up too. Again, though, that would kind of answer that question. What it does not answer is the other dangly question, the recasting of certain characters. Suddenly characters have superpowers like that aren't addressed. But there could be a bigger picture thing going on that we don't see yet. So let's see how that works out. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Tommy from Ireland. John, new segment idea. Rec Spec, where viewers write in topics, Marvel, DC, etc. for you to recklessly speculate about. We do that every day.
I mean, we kind of do that every day. I mean, I try not to go recklessly speculation, but I mean, every once in a while it is fun to do. I don't think we'll create a new segment, but we kind of do that anyway. People write in stuff and that's just wild and we just kind of go with it. All right, what's next?
All right, we've got Luke 1234. When an actor or actress wins the Oscar, they keep the trophy. But when a picture wins for best editing, who keeps it since it's a team of editors?
Every one of the editors gets a trophy. Oh, dope. Remember, just like with the Producers Guild of America will determine who are the actual producers of a movie are. So if the guild say like this movie had true 3 editors, which there aren't often that many editors. They're not. But let's say there was. Let's say there was a team of 3 editors. Each one of them would get a statue. All right, what's next?
All right, K-Rock writes, Shamik Moore, maybe known as Miles Morales in Spider-Verse, plays Raekwon the chef in the Wu-Tang biopic series on Hulu. If you ever see a Raekwon interview and saw Moore's performance as him, damn, Moore is an extremely talented actor.
I brought him up the other day as a possible. Oh, who was this? Is a few weeks ago. We were doing a list of a possible casting. Oh, for Flash, and I think I brought him up. Now, of course, he does the voice of Miles Morales in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the upcoming Across the Spider-Verse, which I cannot wait for. I have not seen. I have had a couple of people tell me this Wu-Tang thing on Hulu was great, but I have not seen a single thing of it yet, so I can't speak to that. But at some point, I'm going to have to catch up on it. All right, what's next?
Anonymous writes in part 1, speaking of Raekwon and the Wu-Tang biopic series, did you see where apparently Raekwon had a meeting with Leonardo DiCaprio, who wanted to be the one to distribute a Wu-Tang biopic through his company prior to the series, but RZA turned it down for Hulu. And then part 2, hindsight is always 2020, but according to Raekwon, DiCaprio wanted to make it a movie with a much bigger budget, kind of in the vein of Straight Outta Compton. And though I watch, not many people do watch the series. Did RZA make the right choice? No.
But I could totally see why the appeal for the series was there for RZA. Remember, when he was negotiating this deal, this is going back a ways, when he was negotiating this deal and figuring this stuff out, streaming and these series looked like it was going to be it. Like, this is where the best things are and whatever. And it's just not true. Like, everybody who looks for the formula, doing something as a movie is absolutely the best idea. Well, for certain stories, yes. For others, no. For a while, people thinking, oh, show is the best way to do it. Well, for certain things, yes. For certain things, no. Look what happened with Straight Outta Compton. That worked pretty good in the movie theaters. And yeah, I think for this, but you're right, it's hindsight, right? I could totally understand what Riz's thinking process was at the time. It probably seemed like the right idea. And you know what? Most of us probably would have made the same decision at the time. In hindsight, it was probably a mistake. Having a guy like Leonardo DiCaprio behind you doing a fully funded biopic in the vein of Straight Outta Compton, that could have been a lot more successful. So hindsight, yes, but we probably all would have made the same decision at the time. All right, what's next?
All right, Graham Jones is next. This is interesting because I feel like the pandemic compressed time. But Graham Jones says, I recall my sophomore year of high school listening to the John Campea show on the day John Wick 3's release. Now I am a sophomore in college, listening on the day of John Wick 4's release. Time flies.
Wait a minute. What year did John Wick 3 come out?
19. I couldn't believe I just looked it up.
It was 2019?
Yeah. That's why I say the pandemic compressed time for me.
Oh my God. So it was 4 years?
Yeah. I can still remember him jumping off that building.
Me too. It feels like it was like 2 months ago that I saw that. Is like, okay. Wow. You know what's funny? It always strikes me because, like I said, July will mark the 20th year I've been doing this. I mean, for the first bunch of years, it was me and my website, The Movie Blog, but still 20 years I've been doing this. And it always, like, I remember a couple months ago, somebody wrote in and said like, hey, John, I started watching you my junior year in high school. Me and my wife are getting married next month. I'm like, what? Or me and my fiance are getting married next
I want to introduce you to my grandchild.
Here's Joanna. Like I
Wait, can you do that one more time, please?
No, I will not do that again. I regretted it the moment I started to hum it. The moment it started coming out of my mouth, I regretted it. But yeah, it's crazy. Like people tell me, I found you in grade 8. My dad was watching you when I was in grade 8, and now we're expecting our first child. I'm like, what? Yeah, we've been doing this for a bit, man. Mm-hmm. Even with you, John, like how many years ago did you start working with me?
It was 2014.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
9 years.
Yeah.
And like, that was after yeah, we've been doing this for a while. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Good Canadian kid, Drake, by the way. All right, what's next?
All right, B. Wayne, New York writes, hey guys, so now that we've seen Henry Cavill cameo in Black Adam and Gal Gadot in Shazam 2, do you think Ben Affleck's Batman or Bruce Wayne will appear in Aquaman 2, as was leaked by Momoa last summer?
You know what? It's so funny you asked that because I was wondering about, we were talking about the upcoming Flash movie the other day, and I just personally started thinking about, I wonder if he's going to appear, because in that article where Ben Affleck basically said he was completely overcome. I don't want to wear a rubber suit, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do and all that kind of stuff. He does point out, except in my last one, I nailed it for Flash. Like I nailed the Bruce Wayne character, even though he's only for 5 minutes. He made no mention of Aquaman. Because my understanding, I think with almost everybody's, was after that big Jason Momoa thing and everything, that he was going to be popping up in Aquaman 2, right? We had that picture, Jason Momoa there with his arm around him, and Ben had the suit and tie, the very Bruce Wayne-like suit and tie on. But I do think it was very, very interesting that in that piece that he made no mention of Aquaman. If all you read was that article, you would come away with the impression that the final time you're going to see him as this character was what he did in The Flash, and he says, that's where I nailed it. So that's a very good question about whether we can still expect him to see him in Aquaman 2. Because right now, honestly, the answer after that article is I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I think there's still a chance, but we'll have to wait and see. Great question. All right, what's next?
All right, Chloe Fanning writes, you would think a movie like The Others with Nicole Kidman would be on at least one of the streaming services, but no. Is that a licensing deal or just out of print? And I wanted to watch that movie at the moment.
That was a very interesting movie, The Others. I mean, it was a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for? Sixth Sense to me. I mean, it kind of felt like it wasn't a Sixth Sense ripoff, but it felt like it was trying to kind of ride the wave of Sixth Sense a little bit. It's a good movie with Nicole Kidman. Basically, spoiler alert, they're ghosts. It's a good movie, but I've never looked for it. I think you'd find there's a lot of movies. But you're not saying it's not available to rent somewhere, right? Like Taylor, do a quick search. See if you can find the others on, like for rent, either on iTunes or the Google Play Store or Vudu. I bet it probably is available.
I bet you can rent it.
Yeah, I'm almost certain you can just jump online, find it. If you were hankering to watch it tonight, you could probably jump online, find it, and rent it for $5.99 or something.
You know what? I went on Amazon Prime and it says not available to watch in your location, and I went on Netflix and it said not available in your country.
Might be a location thing then.
Yeah, it's 22 years old though. That's crazy. 22.
Is that 22 years old?
Yeah, if my math's correct, which it probably.
What about could you rent it in iTunes? Maybe if you look in the iTunes store, that would be
the worst is when you rent it and then it goes streaming like 2 weeks later.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. You know, here's the thing. I made a movie called, and Jonathan was my editor on it. We made a movie called Movie Trailers: A Love Story, which, thank you to everybody who bought and rented that movie and made the film a success. So thank you to everybody who did that. But I've been thinking about taking it and now putting it on YouTube. Particularly putting it on YouTube for our channel members first. And by the way, thank you to all of our beloved channel members. I'm making it available to our channel members first, and then maybe putting on YouTube. And then I thought, well, I mean, wouldn't that be unfair to like people who last year bought the movie to then suddenly put it up on YouTube? And my friend said to me, well, John, like every movie that comes out, you can buy it. And then at some point, maybe 2-3 years later, it'll be on TV. You'll be able to watch it on television somewhere or something like that. I'm like, oh, I guess that's true. But yeah, definitely at minimum, Movie Trailers: A Love Story, we will be putting up on the channel for our channel members to be able to watch and view. And then maybe at some point we might just put it out on YouTube on general, but we'll see. All right, what's next?
All right, Alan Renshaw writes, simple question, John. Why can't us Star Wars fans have nice things? Is it too much to ask for Lucasfilm to have a plan or actually have a movie get made without having it scrapped before production starts? I want a Knights of the Old Republic so bad. Yeah,
man, look, to me, the single biggest failure of Lucasfilm, and again, I say that, I'm not being overly negative. I say that with a full acknowledgement there have been some big wins. I know there are some blind people who are just, you got to hate everything. That'll just say nothing has been good. No, they've had some big wins at Lucasfilm lately. In the recent era. They've had a couple of big wins. But amongst the failures and the losses, the biggest one to me, besides the fact of having a leader that has no idea how to get on the same page with the creative talent they hire, is the fact that they approached the sequel trilogy with no plan. It's inexcusable. It is completely inexcusable that you would go into something with the track record and the template of what a Star Wars saga is, and that you wouldn't plan it out. And listen, I say that as somebody who loved The Force Awakens, because you don't realize there's no plan with the first movie, because the first movie you just go in and make it as good as you can. No, it's not as good as the original three, of course, nowhere near, but I love The Force Awakens. Again, me and John Schnepp, we'd go watch it like almost every day. We would walk across the street from our office, go watch an afternoon matinee of Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and come back. And we did that many times. We really liked that movie. But even though there was a lot of things I like about The Last Jedi, you realized this feels so disconnected from the first film. Because they're doing things in here that clearly have no connection to what they're going off left and right, and then forget it by the time you get to the Rise of Skywalker. By the time you get into Rise of Skywalker, you were just like, they literally put up on a wall 100 different things they could do in a Star Wars movie, put on a blindfold and just threw darts at it. There was zero plan.
I think they acted out of fear from the second one. And then it was like, oh, JJ is going to come back and fix it. I'm like, JJ, the guy who now you guys pan The Force Awakens, is going to fix the third?
I mean, it was too late by that point because because JJ Abrams admitted they never wasn't. This is just an example. Okay. This isn't what made the movie bad. It's an example of one of the things that made it bad. You know, there was never the plan to say Rey. Number one, there was never a plan from the beginning, even in JJ's mind, to have Palpatine come back.
Yeah.
Secondly, it was never part of the plan with Rey to say that her lineage traced to Palpatine. That was never part of the plan. And so you can just tell they got into there and they're all of a sudden they're making up force powers that we've never heard about. They're suddenly randomly creating family trees and family lines that has never been a part of this. And they literally starts with an opening crawl that says, somehow Palpatine, that's some top fucking notch storytelling right there, ladies and gentlemen. Somehow Palpatine has returned. Wait a minute, time out. I'm curious about that statement. Can we explore that a little bit? Nah, okay. Somehow he has made a fleet 10 times larger than the fleet that the Empire. Anyway, don't even get me going. Oh my God, don't even get me going on this.
Well, they rode that pop from the teaser trailer at Star Wars Celebration. They're like, the crowd loves it. They're all crying hearing Palpatine's laugh. Let's go for it.
Oh, listen, I will tell you straight up. Before I saw the movie, I got excited. I'm not going to change this. I got excited hearing that Palpatine was going to be there. But then I went into the movie expecting that they were going to tell me how the fuck Palpatine is there.
Somehow.
Right?
Somehow.
Somehow Palpatine has returned. Somehow he's decided he's been able to make this giant fleet. Now, by the way, every ship is a little Star Destroyer or is a little Death
Star. Yeah.
Everything can blow up a planet.
So and his plan to control everything is to just destroy every planet in the galaxy. What's there to control then?
And then they're going through, and you see the cloning tube, and you see a little Snoke in there. Oh, there's a connection. What was that connection? Why would he have done that? Somehow, some reason, some way. Because reason. Anyway, I gotta stop.
Right.
I can roll on this all day. The fact that they never had a plan.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Say what you will about the prequels, and I think the prequels are garbage. But say what you will. Those 3 films were completely consistent with themselves. George Lucas it's not like he planned every single detail of every single film out, but he had a general idea of where this was all going. This is our beginning, this is our middle, this is our end. And you can say what you want about the prequels. They had a consistent plan and they felt like they absolutely flowed together. I may or may not have liked the end result, but they were consistent with each other. And you can clearly see from frame 1 of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, to the final frame of Revenge of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith, you could tell there was a connecting plan there. George planned it out. And if they had just done that, anyway, sorry, I could go. I ramble about this.
I got nervous after they were interviewing JJ, and it was like, oh, so how does this flow into the next movies? And he was like, well, we haven't written the second film yet. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, we don't know. And you know what? It would have been fine if he said, like, we haven't written the script for the second film, but we have our outline.
They had no idea.
They had no
like,
idea. They had no idea. And that's the biggest, anyway. Okay, what's next?
All right. So Anonymous here writes, any of you seen Skinamarink? It came out in January and was made for $15,000. It's an experimental horror film that is literally just an hour and 40 minutes of shots inside a house. It's definitely not for everyone, but I found it super, super creepy. Well, somebody did.
It's very creepy. Yeah, it was made for about $15,000. I just checked right now. Worldwide, it's made over $2 million, which is great for indie horror. Oh, it was actually released 69 days ago, according to this. So that's great.
The magic number.
The magic number. But
wait, how much did it ultimately make?
almost $2.1 million.
That's a good business.
That's not bad. That's not bad for a movie that costs like what, under 20 grand?
And
I
know it's
15.
Yeah, I know it's not for everybody, but I just thought what they were doing is so interesting and so unique. And I just interviewed Craig David Dowsett the other day over the weekend on my YouTube channel. He's the actor who plays Pooh in Pooh, Blood and Honey. And I am hoping to get Kyle Edward Ball on my channel next. He's the director of Skinamarink, just because I love what he did. I just had never seen anything like that before.
All right, what's next?
All right. We've got Fanimator over here who writes, I never got to see your thoughts on Jurassic World Dominion. I unfortunately saw it in theaters and thought it was a big package. What did you think of it?
I didn't think it was that bad. It's one of those movies where I did not think it was good, but I didn't think it was that bad. It had I ultimately skipped watching it in theaters. I watched it at home. Ray bought it on my.
Yeah.
How did you end up buying it on
because remember our cousins, my cousins were there from the Philippines?
Yes, that's right. So we ended up watching it, and I picked it back up and watched it again. Listen, some of the action stuff was really fun. I thought the effects were really quite great. You can only go so far wrong with giant dinosaurs. I mean, it was really more about giant locusts than anything else. But again, not a good movie, but I didn't think it was all that bad, to be honest with you. All right, what's next?
Okay, Eddie Burton has a two-parter here. Seeing a lot of backlash on Dwayne Johnson for Shazam, but I equate it to wrestling. The Rock wouldn't work with someone like Doink the Clown for the title in a main event, but would work with a Stone Cold because he's just as big a star as Rock. I think all he was doing was positioning Black Adam in the best possible scenario to succeed. So associating Black Adam against Superman, perception-wise, would make people take Black Adam more seriously than if it were against Shazam. Is he wrong?
No, see, going back, I always understood what Dwayne was looking for, right? Dwayne wanted Black Adam to be, he felt that was a character that deserved to be a front and center character. And if you introduced Black Adam as a secondary character to another secondary character, because let's face it, Shazam is a secondary character, has a rich history, but today, Shazam is at best a secondary character. And Black Adam is a secondary character to that secondary character. And he wanted the limelight for this character, and he wanted this character to be, he thought there was a potential there. And I've always understood that. I've always understood that why he wanted the first Black Adam thing to be separate and apart from Shazam. I've always got that. And, it was a gamble that didn't work. It probably would have worked out much better if they had introduced Black Adam in the first Shazam movie. And it probably would have worked out better if they had them against, yeah, any character can go, my character will be taken more seriously if we put them up against Superman. Mm-hmm. Sure you can. You can do that with any character. But what is actually best for this character? And I think at the end of the day, again, this is hindsight. Which is always way easier to do looking backwards. In hindsight, I think it would have been a much smarter move for them to have really played Black Adam and Shazam together. I think it just would have been much, much more successful for both of them. But again, I understand Dwayne's mindset at the beginning. It doesn't excuse sabotaging other characters' appearances in somebody else's movie. It doesn't excuse any of that, but I completely did understand Dwayne's way of thinking at the time. All right, what's next?
Okay, Blue Eagle 95 writes, maybe the real reason Marvel paused on X-Men and Fantastic Four is really distribution rights. If they release them now, would it need to be under the 20th Century label? And if so, would old streaming contracts apply? The current gaps are the longest ever for both.
Remember, Disney owns 20th Century. That's owned by Disney. But when you buy something, let's say Ray had a company called Big Balls Inc., okay? Yeah. And Big Balls Inc., it's a big company, but contractually he owes Taylor Gonzalez $50,000. Okay.
Nice.
Then I come in and I buy Big Balls Inc. It's not like, well, Ray owed you that $50,000, not me. No. The company Big Balls Inc. owned that, and I'm now the owner of it. Any liabilities connected to the company transfers as well. Okay, so Fox was always the distributor of their movies, right? So Disney, now owning Fox, they would get to be the distributor of their own films. But if there are and were pre-existing second stage deals in place, i.e. after the theatrical run is done, who gets first dibs on the streaming? Who gets first dibs on that? If any of those contracts were in place, then that would still apply and be attached to anything that Fantastic Four and X-Men do. So if they were to make an X-Men film today, Disney and Marvel would get to produce it and they would get to distribute it because they own Fox, or they own 20th Century now. But when it comes time for streaming, it would probably have to go somewhere else first before they were able to put it on Disney+. I do not believe that is why they have delayed making these movies, because Kevin Feige said the day they bought 20th Century, Kevin Feige said, don't expect X-Men or Fantastic Four anytime soon. I've already got a 5-year plan. So that's why the wait. So it isn't a situation like Hulk or Namor, where if they made a Hulk or Namor film, Universal would get to distribute it. If they made a Fox or if they made a X-Men and Fantastic Four movie today, they would get to distribute it themselves in theaters. But It would have to go on another streamer before it comes to them. And I think that's going to be, the case no matter what. I don't think you can wait it out. I think it's probably for an X number of projects. So when they do make an X-Men movie or they do make a Fantastic Four movie, don't be surprised if after its theatrical run, if it ends up on a Netflix or an HBO Max or something like that before it goes back to Disney Plus. But it'll be interesting to see. All right, what's next?
Okay, Dildar the Glorious writes, saw Shazam on Tuesday. I really enjoyed it. Not as good as the first, but it's still a solid time with the movies. Taste the rainbow, mother.
Yeah, I had a really good time with that movie, man. I agree. I don't think it's as good as the first Shazam, but I honestly don't know what the hell my compatriots, my other film critics who gave the first Shazam a 90%. I don't know how that first Shazam gets a 90% and this one gets a 51%. I don't get that, because this movie is almost as good as the first. It's a good movie, man. It's a just really good, fun movie. Not as good, but it's good. Anyway, all right, what's next?
Okay, Thomas BDL writes, hi team. My most anticipated show of 2023 is the Spielberg and Hanks produced Masters of the Air with Austin Butler and Barry, is it Kogan or Keegan? I can never remember how to say it correctly. It'll be on Apple TV Plus, but few people seem to know it's coming. Is it on your radar at all? And are you excited to see it?
I remember reading about this, but I don't know anything about the project. Obviously, the talent involved, it's spectacular. I really don't know much about it, to be honest. So your point about it doesn't seem to be on anybody's radar, bingo, you're 100% right. It's not on a lot of our radars. It's not, again, I'm familiar with, like Jonathan's reading, saying, okay, I'm familiar with that, but I don't know much about it, to be honest with you. What do
It
you got?
sounds pretty interesting. The description is 5 miles above Earth and deep behind enemy lines. 11 men inside a bomber known as the Flying Fortress fight for their lives against swarms of enemy German fighters. As American bombers are picked off one by one, their mission becomes very clear: survive. Sounds pretty good.
Is this like the bombers that delivered the... No, that would be Japanese thing.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, sign me up. Spielberg and Hanks like doing wartime stuff together, so sounds good to me. All right, what's next?
Okay, Jeff writes, got to scroll up a little bit here. Counting marketing, Rock has lost studios a total of $107 million in 8 of the last 10 movies. He's been making first dollar gross, so studios are losing even more than that. Take out first Jumanji and the losses are 463.
No, that's not true.
Data says he's financially toxic.
No.
Data says,
Yeah, I don't believe that's true at all. If I go over here and bring up Dwayne Johnson's movies here. Okay. Black Adam lost some money. Yep, it did. Red Notice was a Netflix movie, so it didn't lose any money per se. Free Guy, it was a masked cameo, so we won't bother counting that. Jumanji, The Next Level made money. It actually made pretty good money. Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw was profitable. That movie made money. Skyscraper's interesting. Look up Skyscraper's box office results for that. That's an interesting movie. Like, but let's take something like Skyscraper and take something like Rampage, right? These are both movies that whatever amount of money they made, if it wasn't Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the lead in those movies, it would have made a fuck ton less. Like a lot less. What do we get for Skyscraper? What was the total box office?
Skyscraper made $304 million.
It made over 300?
Isn't that crazy?
I would have thought it was like 125 or something like that. By the way, I was sitting in a screening of Skyscraper when the first time my phone started to blow up about Schnepp getting into the hospital. I have this mental thing whenever Skyscraper comes up, and I remember me and Rob and Christian Harloff I kept having to step out of the theater to reply to some texts and read the new texts as we were just trying to figure out what was going on, and then I left as soon as the movie was done. I left and went, but anyway, so you get a movie like, and then what did Rampage make?
I can check. If
we can look that up too, because Skyscraper, I didn't think that movie made that much money. I thought it was going to be a lot less, and then I remember the Rampage made way more money than I thought it had any business making. What did it make?
$428 million.
It made over $400 million for a Rampage movie. So I don't know if that technically lost money or not, but I'm going to tell you this. Who goes to see that movie if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wasn't in the lead? Not many. That movie makes 250 million, maybe, max, if it's not him in there. Fate of the Furious. How much did Baywatch make? I hated Baywatch. I mean, like I said, Dwayne's my second favorite movie star, but that doesn't mean I like everything he's in. I detested Baywatch. What did it make?
Let's see. Baywatch, Box Office Mojo, it's loading. $177 million.
Oh, yeah, that one was a flop. Yeah, that Baywatch movie was a flop. That movie is a movie that never should have been made. I remember I was at Paramount Studios. Paramount had invited me onto the lot to the studio to go and watch a screening of Baywatch. And I thought the trailers for that movie looked good. And it had another guy I really like. It had Zac Efron in it. I really like Zac Efron a lot. So I was excited to go watch it. And a buddy of mine who works at Paramount ended up sitting right across the aisle from me in their little Paramount theater. And if my buddy had not been sitting there, who works for Paramount, I would have walked out. And I've only walked out of like 6 movies in my life. I would have walked out of Baywatch. It was that bad. But yeah, I don't believe, like going through these numbers, because you look at a number of these that have clearly been profitable, and then even when you look at numbers for movies like Skyscraper or Rampage, I don't think that plays into it, because if it's not Dwayne Johnson in those movies make significantly less money. I don't think there's any argument about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't believe.
And then it's not fair to like take out his successful ones and be like, see, if he didn't do that, he lost so much.
If you take out his success, okay, true, but to then come to an analysis and say, well, box office, he's been box office toxic. No, that's not true at all, because even in the months it didn't make money, I think everybody would agree they made fuck tons more money than they would have if anybody else's name had been on the marquee. So anyway, there's that. All right, what's next?
Okay, so we've got McFlurry here that writes, enough of all this talk about The Last of Us and Mando. The real best show on television comes back this Sunday. Bring on season 2 of Yellow Jackets, baby.
It's a really good show.
What is it?
I was late to the party because I didn't think it looked all that interesting, but I checked it out and I got kind of hooked on it. I don't think it's anywhere near the best show on TV right now. Like I don't think it's House of the Dragon good. I don't think it's Succession good. I don't think it's The Last of Us good. But it's a very good show. And if you haven't tried Yellow Jackets yet, I'd suggest go back, get on season 1. It's not a ton of episodes. You can get through it fairly quickly and see if you can get. I think you might get hooked on it. It's a good show. All right, what's next?
And then check out the movie Ladybugs. All right. Michael Jones writes, John, have you seen the new YouTube documentary? Actually, it's just Bono and The Edge. It's called A Sort of Homecoming, hosted by David Letterman, and it's on Disney Plus.
By the way, Michael tipped in like $20 for that.
$20.
Thank you, Michael, so much. Gonna be honest with you. I haven't, and I'm not really interested. John, I thought you said U2's like your favorite band of all time. They are. U2's my favorite band of all time. But it's not U2. It's just Bono and The Edge.
It's just us two.
It's just, it's just us two, not you two.
Oh, boy.
Without Adam Clayton there and without Larry Mullins Jr. there, it's not U2. And don't get me wrong, I love The Edge and I love Bono, but if it's not the band, I'm not interested. I know that sounds weird, but it's just kind of how I feel, so I'm not really interested in watching it. All right, what's next?
All right, our final one, and let me move this down because we can't see the top. Vincent B writes, John Wick 4 tomorrow. I don't think I've been this hyped since Endgame. What's your feeling about the future of the John Wick franchise? Should Lionsgate sell it to a bigger studio with a streaming platform and more opportunities to build the universe?
Why the hell would you sell John Wick if you're Lionsgate?
Yeah, that's the
Why on earth would you sell? John Wick is clearly the single biggest property that they have. Why on earth would you sell it? And they are expanding the universe. We got the Ballerina coming with Ana de Armas. We've got the Continental coming. And listen, the one thing I don't want to have happen with the John Wick universe is that they overexpand it. I don't want. But listen, Lionsgate has done a terrific job with this franchise. Because while we are living in a Keanu Reeves-essence right now, where Keanu Reeves is like, and he fully deserves it, he's awesome, is like the most popular, beloved guy in the world right now. Everybody forgets when that first John Wick movie came out, nobody cared about Keanu Reeves. And John Wick at first just looked like sounded like it was just gonna be another throwaway little piddly, Keanu Reeves guy. What, the guy from Speed, right? Nobody cared. Lionsgate has masterfully managed this franchise and has made it their single biggest success. And the very fact that we are all talking about John Wick and that we're all excited about John Wick, and while it continues to grow bigger and bigger and bigger each movie in and out, is because the job Lionsgate has done shepherding this franchise has been exceptional. They've done a great job. Why the hell would they sell it? And why would I, as a fan of them, want them to sell it? They've already proven they're great at managing this franchise. So what are they going to do? They're going to take it and give it to Universal. I mean, Universal is great, but I don't know if they would manage the John Wick franchise well or not. I have no idea. They might have a different idea or a different spin or whatever. I like John Wick exactly where it is. And I like it being in the hands of Lionsgate. I really, really do right now. And all right, that's perfect timing because we're at 12:30 on the mark.
I know, these keep working out like
These
perfectly.
work out perfectly. Guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those tips. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget, guys, keep your guys' eyes open because a little bit later this afternoon, Ray and I will be putting up our direct out of the theater reaction to John Wick Chapter 4. We're going to be heading over to go see that movie in just a little bit here. So keep your eyes open for that. And don't forget to come back and join us again tomorrow for the next installment of the John Campea Show. So for myself, Ray Ora, Jonathan Voico, Taylor Gonzalez, my name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, ja-ja.